Okay, and this video is?
This video is the detached left hind limb of the pony, distal hind limb.
Take it away.
For this lab, we'll be looking at the detached left hind limb of the pony. So we're just finishing up in the hind limb. We're doing the distal hind limb here. So we're focusing on these muscles and structures. And we're on a lateral view right now. So this is the lateral side. And I'm just going to turn it slightly so you're looking a little bit more cranially at the limb here. So the first thing you want to look for is the long. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead.
So the first thing you want to look at is the long digital extensor muscle. So that's this muscle belly here. Of course, you'll have all this fascia that you have to go through that'll be over the top of that. So you have to cut through the fascia and dissect out the muscle bellies. But here's the long digital extensor muscle. And you can see that it has this long tendon that extends down the limb. And you'll have these extensor retinacula. So there are 3 of them that go down the limb, and you'll have those 3 that you'll have to cut through as you follow this tendon down into the cannon region. And you'll do that a little bit later in your dissection, but at least you can see those here. The long digital extensor, you want to lift up the edge of it and then look for the peroneus tertius muscle. And in the horse, it looks like a tendon rather than a muscle. So here I'm lifting up the long digital extensor, and right underneath you can see this tendinous structure. So this is the fibularis tertius, or peroneus tertius, either term is fine. And it's mostly tendinous in the horse. So fibularis tertius is right underneath. And then underneath fibularis tertius, you have the cranial tibial muscle. So this muscle is the cranial tibial here. And then if you go even further medial, kind of turn it to the medial side here, so we can hopefully get a view of this. You have the cranial tibial muscle, and then underneath that, you'll have the cranial tibial artery. So here's the cranial tibial artery on that deep face of the cranial tibial muscle. So you can see that, and hopefully you follow that distally into the limb there. Now we'll kind of turn it laterally again, and we'll look for the lateral digital extensor. So you have the long digital extensor, you have your fibularis tertius, you have your cranial tibial muscle, and then you have the lateral digital extensor muscle here. So lateral digital extensor muscle, and then the tendon will come down. And one of the things you'll be doing as you do that distal dissection of the tendons is following the tendon of the lateral digital extensor and finding where it joins that long digital extensor, somewhere around the mid-cannon region, and you'll find where those 2 join together. All right, also on this side, we can show you the deep digital flexor muscle is a really nice view of it right here. So you have on the lateral side, you have this big lateral head of the deep digital flexor muscle, and you'll see it just caudal to that lateral digital extensor. So lateral digital extensor, deep digital flexor, lateral head right here. Also, while we're here, I want to just continue following that artery that I mentioned, that cranial tibial artery, and it goes over the tarsus. So if you move your long digital extensor tendon out of the way, you can see the artery that's kind of underneath it. So the continuation of the cranial tibial artery is the dorsal pedal artery as it crosses over the tarsus. So dorsal pedal artery here, and then that will continue on distally, and it will become the dorsal metatarsal artery here on the lateral side. So this one has really nice injections, so you can actually see it going all the way down here. Now we'll move on, and we'll find our sciatic nerve. And so again, you have to be careful not to lose your biceps femoris muscle on these specimens because they get pretty loose and floppy. Here you have your sciatic nerve, and so it's been cut, obviously. This is the limb that was removed. But what you want to look for is the branching point of the tibial and fibular nerve. So here you can see it's branching into 2 parts, and you've got the fibular nerve that goes a little more cranially here. And then you have this nice big tibial nerve. And the tibial nerve will be really useful for separating the heads of your gastrocnemius muscle. So here's the tibial nerve, and it's going into this muscle. This is the gastrocnemius muscle. And you have the two heads. So you have lateral head on this side, and you have the medial head on the medial side here. And that tibial nerve goes right in between those two. So it'll help you find the two heads and then hopefully dissect out the lateral head so you can transect it. So dissect out the lateral head of the gastrocnemius and then transect it proximally so that you can reflect it. But before you do that, you may want to follow the tendons down to the calcanean tendon. So the calcanean tendon is this big, huge tendon that goes over the hock. And so your calcanean tendon has the tendons of the gastrocnemius heads, but it also has the superficial digital flexor tendon as well. So if you can find the separation and then kind of work your way up with a probe underneath it, that sometimes helps separate out the superficial digital flexor tendon that's right underneath this gastrocnemius muscle. So once you do that, and you can transect your lateral head and hopefully find your superficial digital flexor muscle. So here again, you can see in the horse, this is one of those muscles that's somewhat tendinous and doesn't have a lot of muscle belly to it. But here's the superficial digital flexor, and that goes down and over the hock here, and it's part of the calcanean tendon. And then we'll turn that to the medial side, so we're just going to turn it to the medial side here and see where that tendon is going over the hock. Here, I'll pick up that tendon again of the superficial digital flexor. And you want to make a cut on the medial side, so just alongside the tendon, and open that up so that you can find the calcaneal bursa. So that shiny space in there right underneath that tendon that goes over the hock, and that is the calcaneal bursa. So just slide the tendon off like that. So that's the calcaneal bursa there. And you'll actually continue your dissection and follow these tendons down into the distal hind limb here. And we're actually going to pick up that tibial nerve again, and then you're going to find where it branches into these medial and lateral plantar nerves. But first you need to work through the tarsal canal. So here, if I can put this flexor retinaculum right here, is this kind of band of fascia holding everything in place there. That's the flexor retinaculum there. And if you cut through that, you can get into the tarsal canal. So the tarsal canal is the space here where it's inside. And these tendons of the deep digital flexor that I'm pulling out are actually sitting in that tarsal canal. So once you open up the flexor retinaculum to get into the tarsal canal, you can hopefully find your tibial nerve as it is coming down. So here's that tibial nerve that we saw go between the heads of the gastrocnemius. So tibial nerve coming down, and then you want to find where it branches into the medial and lateral plantar nerves. So hopefully I can pick up the other piece here. There it is. Okay, so here we've got the medial plantar nerve on the medial side, and then we'll have the lateral plantar nerve going down the other side. So if I kind of put everything back in place here, you can see from a caudal view that those plantar nerves kind of surround the superficial and deep digital flexor tendons. They're on either side. So you have the medial plantar and lateral plantar going on either side of those flexor tendons there. So speaking of that deep digital flexor, we'll go back to that here. So I'm just pulling the deep digital flexor tendon out of the tarsal canal here, and then we'll kind of follow it back up where you can see I pointed out that lateral head from the other side, but here you can see the lateral head coming through here. You've also got the caudal tibial that's part of that muscle group in the horse. And then we have this medial head of the deep digital flexor here. So then the medial head will come down across the tarsus, the tendon will come down across the tarsus and then join up with the main mass here. And you can see that medial head coming in. So the tendon of the medial head joining the rest of the deep digital flexor tendon here. All right, now the last thing I want to point out, this one does not really have a medial saphenous. You don't have a very good cranial branch of the medial saphenous. Here you can see there's something there, but it's lost its injection, so it's a little bit harder to see. But that's the cranial branch of medial saphenous right here. And I want to show you the fibularis tertius and that Calcaneal tendon, that medial insertion. So here you've got fibularis tertius, if I can get underneath it, right here. So fibularis tertius is that tendinous muscle coming down. And you'll have the dorsal insertion, so you'll have this part is the dorsal insertion, but then you have this really strong medial band, and that is the Calcaneal tendon. So the Calcaneal tendon on the medial side here of the fibularis tertius. So fibularis tertius, the Calcaneal tendon is that strong medial band there. And I think that's it for the hind limb.
Do you want to double check?
Yes.